Hey guys, welcome back to the Something New show where we like to talk about how to create a life worth celebrating. It's one of my favorite topics, and I love to bring people that I know and have a relationship with introducing to you guys here in my audience, and just understanding, hey, who are some special people that have something to say when it comes to life, whether it comes to their finances, faith, family, friends, mental health, all those things. And today's topic is hot. As you notice, we might not even have a script on our table, which we normally do. And today we don't have an outline because it's going to be a topic that is too easy for my friend and I to talk about.
We're going off the cuff
here today. So this is Selah Hirsh. I'm welcoming her back. She actually has a company called Express My Brand. And if you didn't get to hear her the first time on this show, definitely go back and hear her talk about her brand and her company and how she helps others come alongside and support their brand, because that was amazing. But today, because Selah is one of my closest friends, I said, Selah, come back on the show. And I want to talk to you about two topics that really, really strike a chord for me, especially over the last 20 years. And that is working moms and friendship. So those are two really dear topics to us. And so this is going to be a raw episode. I don't even know what's going to come out of your mouth. I don't know what's going to come out of your mouth, because when you put us together, it's like, but just to give you a little background, I met Selah when we were in college. We were probably 19 years old or so when we met, and we were going after all those communication degrees and excited about the future. And now here we are 20 plus years later, raising kids, both career women. We own our own companies. We live in different parts of the country, but we've managed to stay in touch and prioritize a friendship. Yes. So all that, and we're still married after all these years too, which is amazing. I have been married almost 18 years. And how long for you, Selah?
18 years this spring too.
Okay.
Yes.
We got married 2005, both of us then.
Yes, we did. Can you believe it?
That's crazy. So that's a long time of marriage. Just to say, I think it's a testimony to God himself,
yes,
but then also to a lot of hard work, the fact that we've managed to stay married, yeah, and in a happy marriage nonetheless, and yes, then raise kids while building our own businesses, and then both to be successful in our businesses. It's a huge honor and a testimony to what is possible, because I think women ask me all the time, how are you doing this being a mom of 4 kids? Yes, I know that sounds crazy, but it is possible. And you have 3 kids, about to have another one. And so
we got a little surprise on the way.
Yeah, so you're going to join the 4-kid ranking.
That's
here.
Right, girl.
But I just want to start by talking to you guys about being a working mom. And I think that is probably more the norm than it isn't. However, I feel like working moms feel like they aren't the norm. They yes, feel like, at least I dealt with this, is like, oh my gosh, I'm a working mom. I don't know anybody else that's a working mom. Well, you don't know anybody else that's a working mom because you're in the workplace. You're not hanging out with them all day. And so what I would say is those non-working moms, stay-at-home moms are amazing. And that's a calling, 100%. And then there's some of us that felt called to bring something to the marketplace, and that's wonderful too. But there is the sense of priority where your kids are always your number one. So how do you do both parenting and be a working, successful business woman, and not just maybe in the workplace as someone else's employee, but even a CEO, which is another whole element to itself. Another layer, because as you know, entrepreneurs are 24/7. We do not turn off. So
if you only knew how much goes through here at any given minute of the day. That's what I tell my husband all the time.
I know. He's
crazy. Like, no, I don't need to know. I gotcha.
But I do think that working moms are more common than we think we are. We just can't always easily find each other because we're busy working. Sure. And when we're not working, we're with our kids. And so let's talk about that tension and juggle. And where did you fail, Selah, at being a working mom? And what are some things you do now as a working mom to make sure you don't fail?
Oh my goodness. Let me get my scroll out of all the lessons learned. No, you're asking really powerful questions. Let me just kind of even validate this conversation further. If you're not a working mom, listen in on this still, because we're still talking about the tension of womanhood and motherhood. We're also talking just about the need of, understanding priorities and how having to realign and having to apologize and just constantly evolve with what it takes to be a woman and a mother. So don't check out here on this. And yes, gals, if you are professionals, if you are business owners, I mean, definitely dial in here. We're just going to lean into this conversation, and there's no roadmap for it. I think that's
and I want to say something too. If you are a husband to a working mom, this conversation is still really good for you too, because to understand the psyche and the emotions and the struggle that really exists with working moms and friendship, which we're going to get to that other half of this. I think that the male listeners should also pay attention, because they are supporting and they want to come alongside their spouse that feels called to do both. Yeah. And I want them to understand a little bit of what's going on in their head when they look at their wife and they're like, what's the problem? Why do you have an issue?
That's a great point too, because the whole partner, the whole spouse side, on the other side is key. And like you said, it's in the psyche, because so much of this is carried, I think, internally, and to be able to have a shared understanding and to be able to have someone who can be supportive, I think is critical, as well as the friendship component. I mean, there's just some of these critical pieces, I think, that just really helped to bring a sense of balance. It's not going to be a 50-50 balance. It's probably some form of like a 90-10, but just the idea that we can walk this out and do it day by day.
So give us a story of when you failed, so everybody listening feels totally good.
Yeah, feel totally good.
Lower the bar for working moms everywhere. Right now, Selah, give us a story.
So let's just break it down for a second. I think there's a lot of interesting insights into what leads a woman as a mother into work. And so I think it's how have you been raised? A lot of people, they saw their moms work, and their moms needed to work to provide, for their households, and that's common knowledge for them. And I have a lot of friends who can relate to that. It's just what I do. I probably as equal as it is to, I saw my mom stay at home, so therefore I stay at home, and then I feel like there's this third category. I fall in the third. I kind of think I leave in the gray, because my parents were business owners. My mom stayed home, but my dad, really has that drive in him that I carry a lot of. And so when I first became a mom, I was in my own business, and I did not have any type of a barometer for where I fell in that mix. Should I stay home? Is there, because we have freedom and flexibility, and that's why I have my own business. But on the flip side, I love what I do. It brings me so much joy. You know what I'm saying? And so I'll tell you, those with each of our kids, especially the first two, I faltered. I felt like I needed to pull back and be more present. And in ways I was glad to be present, Mindy, but on the flip side, I dipped a lot. And I lost, kind of again, my balance. And I started to realize I need to determine my own balance. Then society needs to kind of tell me what it is. Let me just break that last part down 1 second there, because I said that a little messy. I think I was looking for kind of validation. This is how my family did it, or this is how other people are doing it, or this is what I feel like I should do. Because again, we were in that gray area with flexibility, and again, seeing the way other entrepreneurs have done it, kind of leaned into the messiness of should I or shouldn't I? And I say all that to say, by our third kid though, I started to stand on my own 2 feet, and I realized, you know what? It's okay to be a working mom, okay? So there was a point of permission I needed to give, because I realized that when I lean into my work, it makes me a better mom. I know that sounds cliche, but it is so true.
Because you
and
enjoy
vice
it.
versa. My children have a happier mom and a better life when I am thriving in my business. And there wasn't the roadmap. There wasn't a formula. There wasn't like, step 1, step 2, step 3. This is how you balance it. And I think there was a confidence that came when I realized this is my identity, and it's different than other people's. And it's the kind I just had to create on my own. And as soon as I started to click into that and let go of some society and let go of some stereotypes, I found freedom. And I feel like I've lived in that since.
That's amazing. I mean, it is freeing to realize I am meant to contribute something. And whether that isn't, like, I'm not speaking to the non-working moms. I'm really specifically speaking to the working moms that feel really called in their heart to bring something to the world outside of the home, which there's not a better, okay? It's both. Both mean something, and they're both super valuable. But the ones that feel like they're supposed to bring something outside of the home. I think knowing like I'm called to this. So if I'm called to it, then I got to figure it out. So like, you know, there's a determination of how do I do it? How do I do both? And I had a coach years ago that helped me. I just thought of this tip that might help some of our listeners, but he was saying basically, if you feel called to it, what do you feel like when you're rested and in clear mind, right? Don't make this when you're tired and emotional, but when you are in a clear set of mind, like what do you feel like the appropriate ratio is of availability for your family and amount of work? And so I had a real clear mind, like I made sure it was like on a weekend day, like a Sunday after I had slept in, and I just had clarity. I went out to, I don't even know where, but I sat by myself and I was like, okay, I want to contribute something to the world. What's the appropriate balance? And, you know, some people might be like, oh, of a normal work week, I want to spend 80% working, or I want to spend 100%. I mean, some of my friends, truly, they need to work 40 hours a week because otherwise they do not feel good when they come home to their kids. They are like, being a stay-at-home mom really makes them feel like crazy. And so they are a better version of themselves if they work 40 hours. Some of us say, oh, you know what, I just want to work 20 hours or whatever that ratio it is for them. So then once I decided that ratio, and I'll tell you, every year is different. Because my kids have had years where they really needed me. There were some issues and I had to kind of step in and be more available. And so I was like, okay, I got to pull back on work a little bit. And then there's years where I'm like, oh gosh, everybody's doing good. So I'm going to, this is a creative year. I'm going to like go all in and I'm going to start to build. It's a building year. But I'll tell you, when I determined the ratio in a clear spot of mind, and then I made that calendar for whatever year or 6 months or whatever, then what he told me to do is to be all in wherever you are. Because what happens is most working moms start to feel guilt.
Oh, yeah.
It's probably a very strong, one of the strongest emotions of working moms, because when they're at work, and I know you guys all feel this, you feel guilty that you're not with your kids. Yeah. And then when you're with your kids, you feel guilty because you're not producing enough at work because you're with your kids and you should be working. And then there's this tension of like, everywhere I am, I literally had years where everywhere I was, whether I was at work or at home or anywhere, I was feeling guilty everywhere. And I was like, I can't get away from the guilty feeling. I feel like I'm sucking everywhere, you know? And that's a terrible feeling. But once I actually made that plan, like he advised, I spent that time going like, okay, I committed to, let's say 60% of my work week is going to be towards work. And when I'm there, I'm not even going to give an ounce of thought to home. I'm going to trust that my husband has it. It's amazing. He's totally on it and we're good. And then when I'm at home, I'm going to not open the phone. I'm going to not open the laptop. I'm going to not even let that emotion of guilt come in because I'm going to 100% with my kids. And while emotions are still like, you know, you can be very like, oh, I feel like I'm crying today or whatever. Emotions can be all over the roller coaster. But at least I knew I was honoring the commitment of time allocation towards the specifics of work versus home. And I think then I was able to turn off any sort of guilt and therefore move forward. And you know what? Like you said, our kids are getting a better version of us when we say, I'm all in for you. Because sometimes just the amount of hours doesn't mean just because I gave them more hours that they're better. They want mom present.
They want the quality of mom present.
Yes, they do.
I think that what you're really talking about there is the blurred lines. And this is really going to speak to, I think, the business owners and, you know, those moms who are professionals with more open parameters maybe in their careers. So let's kind of lean into that for a second, because this isn't 9 to 5. This isn't something that is so set. I mean, especially as you know, being a business owner, like you said, you are on 24/7. And if you're like us, you're even on probably past that.
I know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that that's an area you succeeded in that I need to continually keep in check, because I let the lines blur. I check my email while I cook dinner, and I can, you know, peek at my watch while I'm in the middle of a homework conversation. And I think the best you can do is, like you said, to be present with both, or be present where you are. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's not so much at a reactive level, but you really made it sound, you know, like it's coming from a proactive level.
Oh, yes, before the year starts, it's before the work week begins, and I'm like, this is my schedule. And I do put away my phone when I'm here, which people think is crazy. They're like, what if your kids have an emergency at school? I'm like, they'll figure it out. Like I'm not saying they're not important, but I'm like, I'm all in when I'm here.
Yeah.
But in return, I'm all in when I'm with them.
Okay, can I tell you a funny story?
Yes. I want to hear where you failed.
Story.
Okay,
this is it. It's a touch long, but I promise it's worth listening to for a minute. And this is real. I am not going to sugarcoat it with you because I'd say the blurred lines is an area that I'm constantly trying to keep in better check by moving to places where they are separated so I can be present. And oh my goodness, I remember this was not too long ago. I've got 3 young kids. They're all at this stage, under the age of 8 or 9. And I believe it was a week where I was just incredibly in demand in my job. And again, I love that, but it's like it was
a high intense week.
It was a high intense week. And as much as I'm present forward in that week, the back end of my heart is feeling that rub of that guilt, which is less time. And so one afternoon, I just shut it all down. I was like, I've got to make space here. And I took the kids to the park. It was a beautiful day outside. And it was one of those moments where, you're just like, I'm doing it. I'm balancing it. You know what I mean? I'm here with the kids. This is a win. And I'll never forget, it was the most hilarious, bizarre set of like little moment circumstances where the kids were having so much fun. It was like getting close to 5 o'clock. And I was like, guys, we need to go have dinner. And they're like, but Mom, can we have like 30 more minutes? And you know how you are. Again, you feel like the tension of like, I'm finally having this moment. So I, of course, say yes, because I'm a maximizer to a fault. Yes. And so I say yes. That pushes us to like 5:30, which, okay, now we've all clicked into hangry mode. Okay, like it just turns on you on a dime.
Everybody's hungry.
So I kid you not, I pull into our house. And I mean, at this point now, it's like, oh my gosh, I need like 15, 20 minutes to put food in everyone's mouths. We're all kind of crumbling. And as I'm pulling out dinner really fast, one of the kids goes, the dog got out. The dog got out. And our dog would run around the neighborhood sometimes. We'd have to go like drive around and go find him because he just kind of got on a walk around type of a season. So I'm yelling at the kids, everyone get in the car. And I kid you not, our middle kid was holding our hamster. And it was like, no, but listen. And she's like, can we bring Rex, the hamster? I'm like, get everyone in the car. Like my blood pressure is
why
rising.
Not? Bring the hamster.
I bring the hamster. Get in the car. We're driving around. And as I'm pulling out of the driveway, I realized I had committed to being on this female women in business call of women, and they were all business owners, and it was special, and I had RSVP'd. And so I pull my phone out as we're pulling out of the driveway to find the dog. The hamster's in the back of the car. All 3 kids are piled in because
nobody's eating dinner.
Nobody's eating dinner, and they're too young to leave at home. And I log on to the Zoom call, and I have it on mute. You know how that goes. And I have the camera off, and I'm listening in. Again, blurred lines, Mindy, is happening. And we're driving around looking for the dog. I'm trying to listen to the Zoom call, and we find the dog. So I tell my oldest, go get the dog, and there's a stray cat on the sidewalk, and she's an animal lover, and she's, Mom, please, can we rescue this cat? And I am not a cat lover. Sorry, ladies. And she's begging me, and again, I feel all this mom guilt. Can you please rescue this cat? And I pick my phone up, and I shove it. I don't know if you can see that. I shove it in my bra, still listening in on the call, mind you.
Okay.
Here's where the story goes. I thought we're about to hit the pinnacle of my mom fail. Okay. So I've got the phone shoved in my bra, still trying to listen to the Zoom call with all 3 kids, the hamster. We're finding the dog. I'm trying to make sure the dog doesn't eat the hamster. And my child's begging me to pick up the stray cat. And I'm like, oh, dear God, I'm about to get rabies. So I try to get the cat. It runs off, and I flip a switch. I'm now just mad and hangry. And I'm like, forget the cat. Everyone in the car, we got to get home. And I'm telling you, by the time I drove, probably the 60 seconds from where we were in our neighborhood to our driveway, someone had poked someone, pinched someone. They were all starting to kind of, melt down. And I pull into the driveway, and I slam the car into park, and I scream, everyone is in trouble. Everyone to your rooms.
Hey,
and
at least you're not cussing.
Moment, I had unmuted my Zoom call, and in front of every single female businesswoman on that call, that is what they heard.
You're like, that's me. That's me.
Everyone. I yanked my phone out of my bra in total terror, and I ended that Zoom call as fast as possible.
Did you even know those people on the call?
I knew a few because I was invited to be a part of this inner circle. I was mortified.
Like, we got to get Selah out of the group.
We got the 3 kids in the house. We got the dog in the house. We got the hamster in the house. I think I just handed everyone a bowl of goldfish. And I just went in my bedroom and lost it. And I thought to myself, these lines are too blurred. I didn't need to get on the Zoom call. I needed to turn it off versus stick it in my bra. I needed to not be led by guilt. Right. And have called the park time at 5, so we would have all eaten. Do you see what I'm saying? And that just shows you where
it's so easy to do that. I mean, as you're telling that story, I'm thinking of all the mom fails I have too. I'm just like, I mean, you guys know, but it's just hard. It's so hard. And it's like, if you try to do one and then you try to do the other, there is so much guilt. So I think it's important to know that that's a very strong emotion that can push you to do almost anything. Yeah. If you feel guilt, that emotion can pull you in directions that are not necessarily healthy. We should never make decisions out of guilt. We have to have purpose and intention in our decisions, right? And so I'm thinking, to working moms, you guys have to think about, what is my goal? And what do I really feel is my why, which we talked about? And then what am I bringing to the world that I feel like I'm supposed to? And how much time does it deserve? And how much time should it be allocated towards every week? And then when you're in a clear headspace, make that decision. Not when you're stressed, not when you're tired, not when you're hungry, but when you actually have time to think about it and be like, okay, and then once it's on the calendar for the year that this is the schedule you've decided is your year, then you need to be not guilty at all when you're in either place. And then when you're there, don't worry about your kids. Yeah. Know that you've set up great options for them, whether it's your husband or it's your childcare, which I mean, I've been I want you guys to know, when I think of who watches my children, I'm never just like, okay, does this person work out for time frame and price point? Okay, cool. No, I actually look for people that I want my kids to be like, because I want them to be around others that they will become like. And if I can't influence them because I'm not there, who would I want to influence them? So those are the childcare people I've chosen over the years, and it hasn't always been easy. It's been a sacrifice sometimes in the budget to make sure we can have those people. But when I think about my priorities, I'm thinking, well, if I do want to work, then I'm going to cut out some of these optional expenses in order to afford the person that is essentially discipling my children when I'm not there. That's good. And so I just want to say to you guys, don't just think childcare. Think mentor, disciple, teacher, trainer, coach. I mean, every season of your child's age is different, right? A newborn babysitter is going to be somebody you want with a high nurturing sense. Somebody's going to nurture your child, read to them, care about them, and keep them clean and fed and all the things. But then as my kids have gotten older, the type of care that they've needed is different. Is someone that, if my kid is hanging out with them for 2 hours because I have a meeting, and my kid possibly had a bad day, I want them to be able to guide them in a way that I would too. That's good. And say, hey, tell me about your hard day. And like probably emphasize the themes that we've been trying to train up our children already, so that it's just as awesome as if I were there too. And I know nobody can replace mom, right? Nobody can replace dad. And I got some very good counsel years ago from when I did counseling. And they just said, remember, there are certain things that only you can do. So like, what are things that other people can do? Let's be honest. Other people can grocery shop people. Like Instacart has been my lifesaver for years. Like before even COVID, I've been Instacarting forever. But other people can grocery shop. Other people can do your laundry if you're able to have that luxury. Other people can do certain things, right? But only you can be there for your kids at certain moments. So I will tell you, while I've had childcare, and I still do, I do make it a priority to bring my kids to school and to pick them up from school, if at all possible. I know some jobs do not allow you to do that, but some are able to do that. So if you are able to do that, I know that car time is precious. They are locked up in a vehicle. They cannot get out, and it's like there's no screens, there's no TVs and distractions. And I believe that car time is like gold to my husband and I. We really focus on, even though we both work, like that car time is, hey, how was your day? And I mean, I even have to turn my phone off because I'm like, it's so easy to be like, oh, hey guys, hop in the car, mom's on a call.
That is so true.
Okay.
That is so true.
But I've tried to make sure I'm not on a call at 3:30 and 7:45 in the morning. So 7:45, no calls, and 3:30, no calls. So I can lock in, hey, come on in the car. How are you doing? Give me a hug, buddy. And so that intentionality is very crucial, because I'm sure, like many of you, they are growing quickly, and when they get home, there's like 5 other things that are about to happen. Homework, basketball practice, quick, grab a bite, and before you know it, we're saying goodnight, and they're gone. I'm just saying years are gone. So being intentional in those moments that you can, and then while you're having littles, making sure your childcare is more intentional than maybe like, oh, I'm just going to find whoever's on the street that is less than $10 an hour. I mean, that's just not the best option. If you can, make sacrifice. It's totally worth it. I mean, our children are the most important thing we do, better than any company I could ever have. So I'm like, find the resources somehow to find the right person to help you cover them when you're not there.
This is so good. I love that you just told everyone who's listening, your children, like your children will be fine. Like when you're at work, you know, they're fine. I'm going to even flip it the other way and say, when you are with your kids, your work is fine. Yeah. And that is hard. Can anyone else relate to that?
Yeah.
I'm just keeping it real. That's almost even harder for me to say, you know what, those emails will be fine. That client will be fine. If they'll get responded back to, you know, at this time, and mentally turn that off and say, you know what, just as my kids are going to be fine when I'm at work, when I'm with my kids in the car, or I'm with my kids at dinner, or I'm with my kids here, I don't need to be sneaking. I don't know if you struggle with that or not. I can sneak and take peeks and look.
And be like, oh, let me just reply to that text message real quick.
Right there. And it's because it's like in the moment.
Yes.
In the moment. And it's like I am having to learn to turn that side off and say, you know what? The business will be fine.
Yeah.
Nothing is going to burn it to the ground in the 15 minutes we're in the car. In the evening we set aside for family night. You see what I'm saying? And I heard something once that has stuck with me. You know, you hear amazing messages, you hear incredible, you know, nuggets of wisdom in all different places of your life. And one that has hung with me that I feel like, Mindy, is a theme here, and it even kind of starts to speak into the friendship side, was a message I heard by Pastor Andy Stanley. He's out of the Atlanta area, and he spoke a message once that said, the tension is good. The tension is good. And I don't know about you, but I don't love tension. Like, I'm not a conflict-oriented person. You know, I'm a collaborator, a team connector. And, you know, my husband always laughs. You know, I'm like, you handle the conflict. You're better at it than I am. You know? So when he said the tension is good, I was kind of like, okay, that doesn't resonate with me, you know? And he talked about how there are polar sides, you know, kind of almost like the way a trampoline would stretch across, you know, in its springs, and how we can see tension as negative, or we can see tension as, like you said, the tension of calling in two places that we have the beauty to live into. And I just feel like that's what we're talking about here. We're saying, women, you are free to lean into your calling. You are free to love your business. You are free to love your children. You know what I mean? And understand the priorities, and not be led by guilt, but led by the equal tug and surge of knowing your identity, therefore being led by the purpose of it, and letting that be the motivator, you know, more than even the guilt there. And I feel like the tension looks like all kinds of things. I mean, even stepping beyond for a moment this conversation of just true motherhood and work, I feel like there's a lot of tensions, because especially as a business owner, like you said, you're either at work or you're with your kids or you're in demand somewhere else, you know, like we're having time here right now. And it's like, well, how do I make space for even the other areas that keep me grounded? Can we talk about friendships for a few minutes?
Yes, let's talk about it. I love it. Well, I mean, let's just mention the fact that she had to get on a plane to get away from it all just so that we can actually have time for friendship, because it is so hard unless we're carving that time out.
Yeah. It is hard. And I think that that's, again, just something that unless you have found, you know, the guru in your life that's kind of giving you the heads up, you learn along the way. It's kind of like cutting your teeth and realizing this is hard. There's only literally so many hours in a day. And especially when there's distance in a relationship, there's different time zones, different kid schedules, different work schedules. And very quickly, the bubble pops of thinking, you know, we're just going to be able to stay connected. And so I'll tell you, I feel like you've got to fight for it. Mm-hmm. You've got to fight for who matters in your life, and realize that there are only so many people and places you can put your time and your heart, therefore, into. There's also so many people that can relate to you. Like, there's a special tribe of people that are going to relate to you as a working mom, that are going to relate to understanding just the emotions that come with it, the messiness that comes with it. I know that I've had friendships and ones that have had to kind of distance themselves in ways because I think that there were times they were frustrated with my inability to connect or to show up for different things, you know, and even though, you know, again, I'm learning to prioritize, you could feel that rub, you know, and I had to realize, like, at this stage of life, you know, is this a life-giving or is this someone that's just kind of pulling in a demand area. And I'm so grateful that you gave me the opportunity to get on a plane, to get here, to make this time happen, because I'll tell you, it's not the quantity, but it's the quality of staying connected. And when we fight for that and we use things like flights and Marco Polo and Voxer and voice messages, I mean, friendship evolves, you know, and again, we have to realize there's a tension to maintain and nurture the right relationships that are going to move us forward in life.
And what I hear you saying is, I just want to recap a few key ideas. You said, basically that, and I couldn't agree more, being a working mom limits some of the capacity to be a good friend because you're working, and then when you're not working with your kids, and so then to have that extra time, where does it come from? Because there's limiting hours in the day. So you have to decide who are my tribe of people? And then with very limited hours, I don't know how you feel about this, but for me, I'm like, I don't have a ton of extra hours. So if I'm going to go do a friend thing, then I do need it to be life-giving because there's so much already output in working and motherhood. It's output, 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 right? And so you want to go be with someone that is giving you life and fun and laughter and recharge. So if I have that little baby gift of time to spend with someone, I am looking for, in this season, right? And not always, but in this season, it's like gotta be the friend that's gonna be the encourager, life-giving person. So I think that you have to say, okay, it might be a little bit smaller list than what it was before, which, I mean, you and I are like, we knew everybody on campus in college, but now it's kind of like, okay, like I have limited intentionality time, so I got to make it count. And then I think I also heard you say is it might not be the normal format of like, so on Tuesdays we have girls' night. Like, I mean, I got to be honest with you guys. I've never had a girls' night in my married, working motherhood life. I've never, maybe that's, maybe some people are like, oh, that's terrible. You're a terrible mom. No, but the reality is like, it just doesn't work for me to have consistent hangout girl time. It just doesn't work. So the friends that have stayed the distance are ones that understand that I'm called to do the work I'm called to do and say, hey, Mindy, we know your life is crazy. We don't care. We love you anyways. Hey, we know that you chose to have 4 kids and a business, but we still like being around you. And so we'll make it work. Like, they work with me and are flexible with me, and I want to be flexible with them too. I'm not saying it's all about me. I totally want to lean in and be flexible for them as well, but that takes even more effort, right? But I have stay-at-home mom friends that are amazing, and they're like, whenever you can hang out, if it's a 7 a.m. treadmill date, we'll do it. And then I have friends that are working moms and maybe our schedules are conflicting, but we'll figure it out. If one of us has to, like just this week, one of my good friends is a working mom. One of us had to get something at the store. And so we were like, hey, I'll go with you. And so we literally dropped our kids off at something. And then we hopped in the car together, went looking for the thing that we had to get at the store, came back and picked up our kids. And that was our time together. And you have to get creative in fighting for it. And then I got to say, sometimes those people are not in your neighborhood. Sometimes they're not in your city. Sometimes they're not even in your state. And when you have that where you're like, but I still desire for that deep connection with you because you're amazing and I think you're amazing too, and you have this like equal like love fest, you figure it out. You go, well, I don't know how we're going to stay connected, but we will, and we're going to figure it out. So if it is those, this is what you said, Voxer, Marco Polo, when you're on a drive to carpool and then you drop it because your kids are getting in the car. Okay, I'm going to turn it off. And then later that night, you're able to follow up with them and hear that update. I mean, you have to get creative, and the people that are not willing to get creative with you are not your tribe.
You nailed it.
And that's what you're saying is like find your tribe. But I think it's like the women that are understanding that we're all called to a big mess. I mean, we're all called to the mess, right? And the time connecting is going to be unique and not on a schedule. So how do we get creative? And I think those are some of the ways that you and I mean, we decided years ago we're going to stay in touch, but then even I think more a couple years ago, we decided even more fiercely, like, okay, we have to make this a priority. Yeah. And so Selah and I, we've made it a priority even very unconventionally, but I think that's why it works. We've said, okay, when's the next time you have on your calendar? Okay. And then whether we meet at a beach house for 24 hours or we meet at one of our homes or we just get on the phone or we do a video or voice text messages,
which I love.
That you should not play
favorite.
out loud with your kids in the car. But like, I'm just saying, like, you have to say, it can be unconventional, and it probably will be. That's probably the only way a working mom gets friends, is when she finds people that are open for it to be unconventional and not look consistent. And then, you know what, Selah? There will be a day when our kids are out of the house. There will be. And I mean, I'm going to be sad when that happens. But when we work and we're not raising children, and we can have more conventional, steady, committed times with, like, you know, oh, we do this on a normal basis. But that's just not our season. When you're raising kids and you're working, you have to be creative with the time.
You're nailing it. I mean, truly, rewind this podcast and listen to what Mindy just said the last few minutes. This is pure gold. I only wish I would have learned this years ago. I think you're nailing it. Let me just, again, hit a few high points here. I think these are the takeaways. If you're going right now, you know, thinking to yourself, I need a bedrock of friendship. I mean, we are not meant to sacrifice ourselves in motherhood or in our work and lose a piece of what is so innate in our nature, which is community and friendship and authenticity. And if you right now, you are saying, I need to know, you know, I need a friend. I need a safe place. I mean, we love our husbands, but there is nothing like the girlfriend relationship. And I'm not talking the networker professional relationship. I'm talking someone who gets you, but also too, you can let your guard down. As business owners, we have to keep that guard up a lot of times. You know, we've got to lead. We're the one whose shoulders are responsible, and we're ultimately the one who, you know, the buck stops with us, you know. And I think there's a critical point of having a safe place, whether it's to vent, whether it's to ask questions, whether it's to go, is this even normal what I'm feeling right now? You know what I mean? So again, we're talking about, if you go, I need a safe place. Again, we're looking at who are these people, and understanding it takes the leaning in. You're leaning into each other. It's not, again, it is going to be messy, and it's going to be chaotic, and it's going to be the most beautiful piece of your heart that you need to come alive, because it is the gift of friendship. And if you're a gal on this call who maybe is a bit outside of our personalities and likes more structure, let's just speak to that for a second. I think it all comes in how you verbalize it. And if you didn't catch it, that's what something Mindy just said. Mindy and I had a conversation, and it wasn't like we scheduled it on the calendar. It was more an organic flow of the heart. And it was a season we were both in, and we looked at each other. It was kind of a defining the relationship conversation. Now that I say that. And it was like, I need to be intentional with you. And it's like, will you be intentional with me? And, you know, there's just a point you have to vocalize it. So that person knows that, yes, this is a relationship I'm going to invest in. I'm going to lean into. I'm going to be there for. Again, it's a two-way street. We're talking life-giving both ways. And so I just encourage you, have that conversation. Don't assume you're putting out the vibe and they're just picking it up, but you're committing to say, we will be intentional together. And then you find the methods that work for you. And if there's spontaneous ones like that ours are, great. And if you're not as spontaneous, or that's a little, you know, not as easy for you to be authentic in spontaneity, then find a framework that works for you, because that is how you nurture a relationship. It's one thing to have it and acknowledge it. It's another thing to nurture it, to fight for it, to give back into it, and to realize this is another piece of this three-legged wheelbarrow of life, you know, that keeps me balanced in my motherhood and in my workplace.
Yeah. Wow.
This is good.
This is so good. I'm here. Like, keeping it real. I mean, I desire so much for our viewers and listeners to have a friend, even if it's one.
Yes.
Even if it's one, through all of your seasons in life, is so important. So whether you're working and you're not a mom yet, or you're a mom and not working, or you're both, I think it's really important to seek out a friend that makes you better, that encourages you to face your dreams and not think you're crazy, to believe in whatever you have on your heart to do and accomplish, and say, let's do it together. And when you leave your time together, you feel like a better person.
I love it.
And you might not know someone like that, but I think it's important to seek it out, at least for one friend. And if you don't know where to start, I mean, I recommend for people to do, look at church. I mean, I know that's like a really generic answer, but there are a lot of people at church that are going for the purpose of, I want to meet a friend. Because where else do you meet friends? I mean, I guess you could do all those dating apps, but I do think that it's more authentic to meet them in person and find your people. And even like you said, even if it's one person, or maybe you're listening to this thinking of a friend from your past that you haven't seen in a long time, but you just really thought they were great. You're like, man, I just loved being with them every time we were together. like it has never been easier to connect online. Meaning like find them on Facebook, send them a message and say, hey, I loved being with you. You were a real encouraging spot in my day when we used to work together. I knew you back in this time frame and I'd love to reconnect. What are you doing now? And try to make that something that you can stir up again, because those people are out there and they don't have to, like I said, Selah and I live states apart, but we somehow figured out to stay in touch. And so I think that's important that we identify that like it might not be in your city, state, or town or whatever. And then the last thing I kind of want to wrap up with that I think it would be important to talk about before we pull out your favorite drink is the fact that sometimes we fail as moms to not bring our kids into our work.
Oh, that's good.
And I just think it's important to hit real quick today. I mean, I could probably do a whole episode about this, but explaining to them what we do, why we do it, and the benefits that come from what we do. Because sometimes there's a benefit to them. Like, I mean, I tell my kids, I'm like, you know that sports camp you want to go to this summer? Well, I'm going to work really hard on Saturday, so mom can pay for that. And then they're like, okay, mom, you go get it, because they want to go to that sports camp or whatever it might be. Point. So I think a couple of things and maybe you can think of how you do this, but I've talked to my kids and said, hey, this is what I do for a living. This is how it works. This is why I really enjoy it. And I think it brings value to people's lives in this certain way. Yeah. And so I just love that as a family, this is kind of our mission, but I want you to see mom living it out in her workplace every single day. And so this is what I do. And I even bring them to the workplace sometimes. I let them help me. Like if there's ever, you think about what you do, if there's ever a moment where you're able to let them help you with your work, let's just say a trade show or putting together packets or something like that, bringing them along into the company with you and saying, hey, help mom out because this is really cool. This is what she's doing so that we can have such and such benefit, So I think that's an essential tip for working moms. But do you have an example of that?
I'm so glad you brought that up. Yeah, I'll say that because really I'm on the other side. You have the beautiful Something New boutique. I mean, I've seen dresses everywhere. And like you said, you come and help me. And you've got a beautiful place that represents you and everything you stand for as a business owner that your children can see. So I'm going to talk to that from the other side. I'm going to talk to that from the mom who is dialed in kind of in a virtual space a little bit. I mean, I live on Zoom, you guys.
Yes.
I mean, I live by, my ideal day is like Zoom.
That's your ideal day?
That's what makes my world work right now. I mean, I'm on calls with people in Morocco and Qatar and South Africa and
it's
around
amazing.
the U.S. And I do that work all through Zoom.
Wow.
I work with my contractors all through Zoom. So I have an invisible shop to my kids. And it is interesting how I just disconnected the two until probably just in the last few years. And it dawned on me, my kids have no idea what I do. Yes, there's tangible IP assets we create in big pieces, but again, I'm not hanging them in a showcase or a showroom where people can see. And so I started showing the kids, like after a Zoom call, they can hear when I'm off sometimes, if it's later in the afternoon and they're home from school and, they'll wait by the door and I'll say, hey, come on in, and I'll be able to kind of show them pieces. And they're able just to kind of sense and understand that there are deliverables coming out. And I'll say, hey, let me tell you about this conversation I had. And I'm just kind of able to relay bits and pieces.
So important.
And they have actually latched onto that, which is really cool. And like you said, when you can attach work to the benefit of the household, I think that is really special because they're able to see mom is a provider to our family. She is a contributor. Work does not take her away, which again, that is still there. I'm not denying that, but she's able to give back. And I love that we can give back to our households. And I love that our kids can see the fruit of our labors, and I think the same thing goes for friendships. Friends don't take mom away. But my husband said this to me when I was coming here. He goes, go, you'll come back better. You know what I mean? And so I want them to see that when we go into our places of work, whether it's your virtual home office, whether it's your physical office, whether it's your showroom, whether it's your, you're jumping on an airplane, wherever you're going, that we're able to, like you said, have the right priorities. That's something I'm taking away from this call today is, kind of, again, not being led by guilt, but being led by priorities and helping our kids see that as we live by our priorities, therefore, that contributes back to the wholeness of our life. Mm-hmm. And we are happier moms. Yeah. We are still stressed. We are still at times duct taped together if you ask what's going on behind the scenes, but but we're happier and we're fulfilled. And I'm telling you, our kids can sense when we live at a place of significance, because it's going to have an overflow of joy into their lives. That's what I hope they take away.
And so I think that us talking about it with them simply brings them in. And that whole wrap up that you gave, I just think that is essentially, we just can't work and then come home. I think we need to tell them what we're doing, why we're doing it, how we do it, age appropriate, obviously, as they're growing, but just so that they understand. I just don't think it should be a separation. They need to kind of link arms with us and see what we do and why. And who knows, you guys might be able to teach your kids a trade that could be profitable for them in their future, because sometimes it's not just the degree, it's like the skill set that they catch from being with mom or dad in their jobs. And so I think it's a gift that we can give our children. And
can I give one last tip? This
okay.
is my very last tip. This is
more.
like a bite-sized tip. Ladies, if you have not found a decompress point from when you finish work to when you enter motherhood, find it. Even if that's walking from your home office, to your children, if it's driving Mindy from your shop to home, I'm telling you, I started to implement this about a couple years ago in my business, and I'm still really guarding it. I will physically, like if you're on that drive, put your phone down. Don't finish answering emails the whole way home and then walk into the door. We have to have a tiny off-ramp. And I think that that is critical, because if we just go straight from the furnace into the fireplace of motherhood, I don't know about you, but I fizzle out really fast. And it was a really wise woman who said to me, Selah, you need to find off ramps, and you need to just have a quick mental decompress, even if it is taking 60 seconds or a minute or two.
Well, there's a lot of breathing exercises that are amazing for that. Yes.
You prepare yourself to enter into a place of greater peace. And I'm telling you, if you just try that one little tip, I think that's just one little thing that I've done in my, in my lifestyle that has just helped a touch to, again, find a little place of balance. I thought I'd share that.
I like those transitions. Those are really important segments between the both. It's like, ooh, okay, let's get a little offload before I will enter. I mean, Jordan and I are always like, okay, like we'll be like a "you're up" text, and before we're passing off the children, but we do oftentimes need that little bit of a, okay, I'm about to enter the war zone. Yeah. But I mean,
set your heart.
We love them.
Ready.
And I'm so thankful, because I think that part of the success of a working mom is the partner. And I got to be honest with you, like I would not be nearly as successful. People say, how do you do it all the time? I'm like, well, my husband is supportive of what I do, and he has a full-time job too. But what's really cool is that he's like, when you're up, I'm going to do everything I can to support you at home so that you can be on and up. If it's me and he has a big meeting or presentation or something for work, I make sure I like clear that day, because I'm going to be 100% available for the things at home so he can be successful. So it does help to have a partner that's on board. That's why I think this call was really good for the partners as well.
I agree.
Because they need to hear kind of the emotion that we struggle with, and then some things that we're doing to kind of overcome it. Because I've met a lot of husbands over the years too that have asked me like, my wife wants to work, but she's struggling with it, and I just want to help her. Like, I don't know what to do. So if you heard some of the things today as a partner, I hope you leave some comments about how you can help with that too. But we always end the show with a favorite beverage. So Selah, what's your favorite beverage today?
All right. Well, we're going to do the workplace toast, or non-alcoholic.
Okay.
Sparkling. So
Sparkling water. You never cease to surprise me.
So we're going to go into the fun place of raspberry lime, because I love anything that zings.
Okay. I love it. We're gonna have some.
So pop these open.
Spindrift here.
And I think let's pretend this is our little champagne cheers for the day, because every day I feel like that I am effectively in my business and effectively in my motherhood. I didn't say perfectly, but I showed up and I did what I did is worth celebrating. Can
yes, that's right. Okay, ready? Cheers.
Cheers, my friend.
Delicious. Love it. Okay,
Thanks for having me today in this conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I love the honesty. Ladies, I hope you're encouraged. And partners, I sure hope you see how valuable this is.
Absolutely. And this is just a real friendship that you get to see, talk through, and model the struggles we have had. So thanks again for tuning in to the Something New show today. I hope that you got some things out of it, some applications that you can take home. If you liked it, hit a like or comment below, and definitely share it with your friends. We'd love for you to subscribe on our YouTube channel, anywhere podcasts are located. And then finally, we're also on Instagram at the Something New show. It was a pleasure joining you guys today. I hope you have a good one. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe to the show, rate, review, and share with a friend. Also, follow the Something New show on Instagram and Facebook. If you want a fuller experience, watch the show on YouTube to help you create a life worth celebrating.